Oftentimes, the first episodes of a series can either be the best or the worst. With She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law, it set things up very well, but also showed us a lot of stuff that we had already seen in promo footage. What does the second episode hold for us? A really good, real-world look at the MCU. I'm Ollamh, and welcome to Attorney-at-Geekness. As we start the second episode, we get a previously on that takes over a minute to get through. At the actual start of the episode, we see the news reaction showing that Titania was in the courthouse for traffic court. The news saying she's a super-powered influencer. Sounds like she's known on Instagram or TikTok, and that her followers know that she has superpowers. Finally, Jen gets her name in an interview with an extremely misogynistic man.
Yeah. So, this chick, pretty decent, turned into a Hulk, like a chick Hulk.
And she is officially named She-Hulk. Cut to the legalese, a bar where attorneys hang out and everyone wants her in She-Hulk form. She walks in reluctantly and breaks down her feelings on superheroes and the Avengers while drinking quite a few drinks. Her boss shows up, wanting to talk to her in Jen form, as She-Hulk is a bit too intimidating and he doesn't think it's a serious look. Come to find out, she's being fired. The trial that she won was ruled a mistrial because she saved the jury, biasing them to her side before her closing arguments, or they could agree on a verdict. Also, we find out that reverting changes her metabolism, which means that changing to Banner would cause Hulk to heal more easily. And the drinks that Jen had as She-Hulk caused her to become immediately smashed. Jen finds it incredibly difficult to find a new job, as no law firm wants her on their team. It does make sense, as Hulks are known to change and rampage when angry, so getting a fair jury would be pretty difficult. As Jen is looking at other jobs, we see a couple of interesting articles listed. One being, why there is a giant statue of a man sticking out of the ocean, showing that the Celestial from Eternals is still a thing, but it's not very widely known as a problem. Also, we see an article saying that a man fights with metal claws in bar brawl, which is hinting at Wolverine. I find this one the most interesting of the two, since Wolverine first showed up in a Hulk comic as an antagonist to Hulk, but also showing that mutants are already a thing. While most people are expecting a multiverse crossover, some cosmic event that unleashes mutants, She-Hulk is hinting that there's a lot of things out there that the general public just doesn't know. I've always thought that the best way to bring in mutants and the Fantastic Four into the MCU was to say that they've been there all along, just not public. Ant-Man and the Wasp were active in World War II and the Cold War, but the government kept it all under wraps. So why not everything else, too? It wasn't until Tony Stark became Iron Man that superheroes became public. But until now, we've only seen things from the superhero side of things. We never really got to see what the general public did and didn't know. Jen gets a text from her mother saying not to be late for dinner. Just what a newly turned Hulk who just lost their job wants. A family dinner. It turns out that the family doesn't really talk much about the Hulk thing. Just a few questions about Hawkeye, her job, her future, and possibly helping a young man who wants to be a superhero. It does make sense, though. They've been through all of this before. Remember, Bruce and Jen were on their way to vacation when they had their accident. And Bruce was in human form, so they might have already had a family dinner with him before now. Also, anything that the family wanted to talk about in regards to the Hulk would have already been hashed out before now, so there's no need to bring things back up. Her father makes an excuse to pull her out of the dinner and talk to her one-on-one, giving her the support and a friendly ear she needs. While things are still far from fine, it does help her feel like things will get better, which they do, shortly after while she's drinking on a severely reduced budget. While nursing the very last drops of her beer, Holloway, the man who had the case ruled as a mistrial, comes and buys her a drink. He wants her to come work for GLK&H as part of a new division that they're starting. She accepts on one condition, that she brings her own paralegal, which Holloway really doesn't care about.
I truly do not care who your paralegal is.
Now at this point, it feels like someone is really pulling a lot of strings. She shows herself off as a Hulk to save the jury, which leads to the mistrial and her being fired. The man in charge of creating the Superhuman Law Division just so happens to be there, seeing her winning argument and her superpowers, so he hires her for the job. While her She-Hulk powers would keep her from working in a normal court of law, they are actually perfect for the Superhuman Law Division. Think about it. If the people involved in the cases are superhuman, it makes sense to have an attorney that is superhuman as well. If any of them start trouble in the court, she can step in. Now, there are theories that Holloway is behind all this, possibly as a Skrull, but I still think it's the leader. Holloway is just a bit too self-absorbed and never jokes, so he's unlikely to see the irony of it all. Jen's first day is a giant ball of confusion and conflict. She's expected to show up to work and court as She-Hulk, being the face of the Superhuman Law Division. While being shown to her office, she breaks the fourth wall, talking to the audience while Holloway talks about something. We still don't know who can and can't see her break the fourth wall, though. Everyone they walk past gives her a strange look, but whether it's because of her being She-Hulk or her talking to somebody who isn't there isn't really clear. Holloway doesn't react to it, but as we pointed out, he's very self-absorbed and used to being listened to when he speaks. After giving her some time to settle in, she goes to get her first case from Holloway. And we get a sign that Holloway doesn't mince words or try to be subtle. He tells his underling to tell Bob Thompson that he's going to Minneapolis because he hates the cold, and adds, just tell him that. He doesn't hide his intentions. Telling a man that he's going to a cold city because he hates the cold? This goes a long way to prove that he's not the plotting kind of person. Jen's first case is the parole hearing of Emil Blonsky, aka Abomination, who has been serving his sentence in the Cube. Apparently, he had a trial, though probably a military trial rather than a civil one because he was a soldier. Blonsky signed a conflict waiver. He actually asked for Jen Walters to represent him. This goes further to hint that someone like the leader is behind Walters getting this job. GLK&H had to hire her to get the Blonsky case, which is great PR for them. Going to visit Blonsky in the Cube, Jen has to depower before entering, and finds out that it's not as cut and dry as she thought. He goes through his backstory to catch everyone who didn't watch 2008's Incredible Hulk up to speed. Russian-born, British-raised, on loan to the US government, he's changed, he's calmer, and wants to start a new life on a large plot of land purchased by his 7 soulmates he met through the Prison Pen Pal program. Now those 7 soulmates sound a little convenient. In some of the promo material, we actually see 7 women all in white robes with floral crowns. 7 women, matched through a pen pal program, dressed all the same, with the ability to purchase a large plot of land. Yeah, this sounds like a cult to me. And what does a cult need? That's right, a leader. Emil brings up what he calls the elephant in the room, him trying to kill Hulk. He says it wasn't personal, that he was following the direct orders from the US government. Jen naturally pushes back, saying he rampaged through Harlem and that wasn't sanctioned. To which Emil says that was due to the super soldier serum, with gamma radiation instead of Vita rays. This is the start of Jen's conflict. Emil was given the same treatment as her personal superhero crush, Captain America. It's confusing to her that Emil could have such a reaction, and that it obviously isn't public knowledge that it was used on Emil. Emil lays down his view of things, much like I predicted. The Hulk was the threat. They gave me the same treatment as Captain America. I thought I was the hero. And Hulk is now a hero despite the destruction that he's caused, but I'm locked up in here. These are the exact things I expected and would lay down an excellent case to have him paroled, if not outright have the conviction overturned based on new evidence. It turns out Emil also has been writing haikus for his victims, putting his sorrow and remorse into an artistic outlet, as well as painting, it would seem, based on the decoration in his cell. Jen starts forming her defense even before officially taking the case, saying she'll think about it. She goes home to a message saying she has to the end of the day to decide. Jen calls the one person who is best placed to help her make the decision, Bruce. It turns out that she wants more to talk through her thoughts and feelings rather than getting his permission. Not that it's much of a problem, as Bruce says that he received a very nice letter a while back with a heartfelt haiku from Blonsky, and they put everything behind him. So Emil was telling at least partial truths. He also makes a meta joke that Jen laughs at while breaking the fourth wall.
That fight was so many years ago, I'm a completely different person now. Literally.
The episode ends with 2 major twists. 1, Bruce is on the Sakaran craft and headed somewhere, and a phone video of Abomination and Wong fighting is leaked, which puts everyone in an awkward placement. So, let's talk about it, shall we? First off, Bruce has a lot of his tech and binders on the ship, which hints that he is going off to help someone else deal with being a Hulk. Now, there are plenty of theories that this is leading to a World War Hulk movie later on in Phase 6 of the MCU. I don't think they will go that far. World War Hulk was an apocalyptic level event, where Hulk killed 2 of the Fantastic Four. I can't see them going there shortly after introducing the Fantastic Four in their own movie in the MCU. That being said, I do think that Hulk will find out that he has a son, Scar, and a teenage Hulk-like child getting his powers for the first time would be very difficult for anyone other than Bruce to deal with. I wouldn't be surprised if the next Hulk movie is similar to the Black Widow movie. Bruce finding out what actually happened during those 2 years that he was the Hulk on Sakaar. We could even see him beating the previous champion, Beta Ray Bill. Now, Jen's part of the trouble could be even more interesting. The parole hearing is going to be tricky for both sides. On Jen's side, she has to explain why Abomination was out of his cell and in an underground cage fight. Meanwhile, the other side is going to have to admit and prove to the court that magic is real. This is obviously where Wong is going to come in and will likely be exposed as the positive influence on Blonsky. That fight wasn't very serious. They were already friends, and it may have been part of Blonsky's rehabilitation. showing Blonsky that he can turn into Abomination and fight, but not lose control and go on a rampage. The obviously Eastern philosophy that has changed Blonsky would fit with Wong being the one who helps him. Those are my thoughts and my breakdown of She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law Episode 2. I think we're still on track for Blonsky's trial being the linchpin in the release of the leader, that the leader may have suggested to Blonsky through one of his soulmates that Jen Walters needs to be the one to represent him in his parole hearing. Also that Scar is going to be introduced in this series. And while dealing with his rebellious son, Savage Hulk is going to make a resurgence. Now, I don't think he's going to revert back to a pure split personality, but I think he'll be more in line with the Hulk from Agents of S.M.A.S.H. So what do you think of the episode? I know I was wrong on my idea of Hulk being against Blonsky's release, but do you think the rest of my predictions still hold up? What about the hints of things the public doesn't know that we don't really know, that are just part of the MCU? Personally, I'm really loving this series. It's not as deep as the others, but it is kind of a refreshing look on the MCU from a non-superhero angle. I'd love to hear what you think, so please, leave your verdict down in the description down below, and let me know your ideas of what we've seen and where we're going from here. Also, if you haven't yet, don't forget to press the subscribe button down there. As always, thank you guys very much for watching, and don't forget to stay tuned for more from Ollamh Productions. Video adjourned. Hey, thanks for watching to the end. If you like our videos, you can help the channel grow by giving it a like and sharing it for others to enjoy. If you want to help the channel out even more, you can find our Patreon link right down there. And of course, other videos here to enjoy yourself.